What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
All right. I think we are all set. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into episode number 560 of Underground Sports Philadelphia, presented by the City of Vineland. It's KB, it's Matt coming at you from Underground Studios. We got a lot to dive into, from the Phillies, Eagles, that stupid basketball team that we are somehow fans of, and of course we'll get into the Union as well. But before we get into all of that, make sure you guys are following us on the socials: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads at UndergroundPHI, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI. You can watch us live every Wednesday on Twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It goes a long way for helping this show continue to grow, gets more ears and eyes on Underground Sports Philadelphia as a whole. So go subscribe on your podcast app of choice. The downloads this summer have been absolutely through the roof, so keep that rolling and be a friend. Tell a friend to subscribe and download the podcast on their podcast app of choice, and subscribe on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Underground Sports Philadelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show twice a week. You get full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, original video content, live streams. It's all on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Underground Sports Philadelphia. And like I mentioned, this show presented by the City of Vineland, and the City of Vineland Municipal Calendar features city-organized, city-sponsored, and city-affiliated events that are of public interest. The calendar, which is accessible at vinelandcity.org, is a good way for residents and visitors to build awareness, remain engaged with city government, and participate in local events. You can also follow the City of Vineland on social media via their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube pages. Through these tools, you can stay connected to the community and get important announcements about programs and services offered by the city. Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always growing season. And big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. Matt, what's going on, brother?
I am living the dream.
The Philadelphia Phillies almost fulfilled the prophecy of the podcast, going 7-3 on the home stand. But they go 6-4. They lose game one in unfortunate circumstances up in Toronto last night, going for a 2-game series split on Topper's birthday tonight up in Canada. But since we last talked, since we last signed off on a Wednesday, Michael Lorenzen threw a no-hitter.
Literally almost in less than an hour after we signed off, he threw a no-hitter. Yeah. Kind of unbelievable. You know, we were talking about how he had a good debut, and we're looking forward to seeing him, the rest of the season, and that he's just a nice addition. And I mean, what a wonderful way to follow that up. So just I think reinforcing the point that the Phillies made a good bit. What was the thing you retweeted something or sent me something where it's it's Fullerton County high school or something have all thrown
It was
no hitters in baseball. It's like they've only produced 4 major league players, and all of them have been pitchers, and all of them have thrown no hitters, which was unbelievable.
And I think the craziest part is one of the guys that did it in I think he pitched from in the early 80s. He only pitched in baseball for 3 years.
Just burned out rather than fade away, Kurt Cobain style.
Absolutely insane.
Just throw heat the entire time. But yeah, it's obviously great, and I think not capped off, but I think was just another sort of mile marker in what a really good last month and a half it's been for the Phillies, and that they seem to have really started to get themselves together. Now they followed that up with a pretty disappointing weekend series against the Twins, and like you said, you hope to split against Toronto, but I think the nice thing is when you look around their competition, you look at the other teams in the wild card, the Phillies are outpacing all of them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, again, few bad results the last few games, but for the most part, the Phillies have really gained a lot of ground on those teams and put a good cushion between them. and that's what we're hopeful for. When we were talking about in the preseason what we wanted this team, it was just to be in the playoffs again. I don't think we were under any illusions that this team was going to win the division. Maybe we thought that, with the additions they made in the offseason, the division might be more competitive. It's not. Well, actually, I guess in a technical sense, everything outside of first place is more competitive. But, it was all about just making the playoffs, and they've put themselves in a really good position now with like a month and a half left in the season to do that, which is a really nice thing. And, they were not in this position last year. They were chasing, all the way up until, almost the penultimate game of the season. So the fact that they're in a much stronger position now, in part because everyone else chasing the wild card is maybe a step below, what we were seeing last year, is a really good spot to be in.
Yeah, those 4 pitchers, Michael Lorenzen, obviously one of them, Hall of Famer Walter Johnson, Steve Busby, and then 3 years in the majors, Mike Warren from 1983 to 1985.
Unbelievable. That's just crazy. That's crazy to me. It was. They've only produced 4 players, and they've all thrown no-hitter. That's
insane.
Just something in the water, I guess. I don't know.
But yeah, I think, I was at Friday's game too with Taiwan Walker's charity event, which was phenomenal. The Phillies put out that they raised $30,000 for Turning Points for Kids, which benefits kids in foster care, and Taiwan's matching every dollar, so they're going to get $60,000. They have the offensive outburst, and then they do that typical Phillies thing where after that happens, the bats go cold for X amount of days. If they want to keep that pace that they have right now in this wild card, like that has been the huge benefit of building, that lead in the wild card is these moments like this where the bats go cold, the pitching kind of, squanders a little bit. You have to get back to a more consistent pace offensively. Like last night, yes, they lose 2-1. Sir Anthony, hits the one batter to bring in the winning run for the Blue Jays. But when your top 7 guys are going 0 for 24, that tells the other half of the story. The Phillies lineup is way too good to only be producing 1 run in a game.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of frustrating moments over the last 5-6 days. You have the Bohm missed call, which I think was just a road killer, and Sir Anthony last night. I don't want to say unforced errors, but it's something like that, and those are definitely the frustrating moments. But I think you have those all throughout a baseball season. It's so hard to make it through a full year without finding moments where you're incredibly frustrated or over the moon. It's constantly, I think, just peaks and valleys when you're not just the Dodgers or the Braves through the regular season. It's always a bit of a slog. But like we said, the Phillies went out the trade deadline and made moves that were really encouraging, and you've seen that pay off. Like we were saying with Lorenzen and the no-hitter, but even outside of that, I think it gives you so much more flexibility, as you come to the end. And I think you're even seeing someone like Rojas come on and fill in for Brandon Marsh in such an extremely positive way is another great thing. So obviously the results not great, but I think what you're seeing from the players is definitely encouraging. Yes, do you hope that Trey Turner figures it out as we get to the playoffs? Sure, but I think in general the team's in a good spot, and it's been a lot of work of their own too.
And who would have thought ovations work? Because Trey has been phenomenal since that game, and who knows if that's just coincidence or what may be, but hopefully that continues. It does beg the question, last night with Sir Anthony, can the Phillies trust Sir Anthony Dominguez in the playoffs? Because right now, and the way he's pitched this year, I don't think you can even trust to bring him in a high leverage situation a la last night.
I think you can, but it's maybe not as lockstep as it's been in years past. I think the Phillies have an interesting playoffs to consider because you're very likely going to be in the wild card game. So 3 games. You obviously know Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are your number 1, number 2 right there. In a potential game 3, I don't know. Taiwan has been great, but I still think there's moments.
It's that first inning. And that could be a crucial first inning. This team has the flexibility in pitching
to like play to matchups, which is a good thing. I think we're in a stronger position than we were last year with pitching, and I think that's honestly like one of our biggest upgrades coming into a potential playoffs this year. I wouldn't say that I don't trust Sir Anthony Dominguez, but I think last year I was much more confident in him. I think it's it's the nature of the position too. It's not a year on year you're not guaranteed the same performances out of guys, and that's why you pay the big bucks for those guys that can do it. And the Phillies have tried that approach a lot over the years, and it's blown up in their face quite a bit. Because just to me, like being a relief pitcher, being a closer are just it's such there's a little bit of randomness to it, and I think it's an incredibly taxing job, and a lot of times thankless too. So it's not an easy position to play and perform at, but I don't know how I feel about Sir Anthony going into that. I feel good about our pitching. I don't love and feel like completely stress free though. Outside of Nola and Wheeler, and I think we're really going to be dependent on them being at their top level, and you're probably going to even see this rotation thin out now.
And even with Nola, you're like at bated breath hoping he doesn't give up a home run this year.
Right, Nola does have and typically it's later in the games, but he does have the self-destruct button, which we've seen over the years, which is fascinating sometimes to watch. But I do think the Phillies are there's been a lot of talk about them like shortening the rotation now because yes, they're going to give guys maybe an extra rest day or two over the rest of the season, but pitchers are like very particular creatures and like the kind of routines that they get in. So pitchers have talked a lot about having like those extra days rest constantly actually like mess with them and isn't good for their the way they like to prepare for games. So it does give them that like flexibility though, and again they didn't have this last year. We were we were bringing Bailey Falter in an NLCS last year. And that's just kind of what this team was, and I think it is a different situation. But yeah, trust is definitely a hard word. But you listen, like I didn't trust the pitching last year all that much outside of Nolan and Wheeler, and it still got us very far. And I don't think at no point last year in the playoffs did I really think too that this team's pitching was bad. Were there moments here and there where I would have liked it to be better? Sure, but I don't. You're always going to be like looking for perfection no matter what. So I feel largely good, but there's definitely some apprehension.
Yeah, because I look at Sir Anthony's numbers this year, and they're by far the worst of his career so far. He's got a 4.24 ERA, and I know a lot of people, ERA isn't everything, but you look at the fielding independent pitching, which for a pitcher like Sir Anthony, who over the years has been known to get those strikeouts, FIP measures stats of a pitcher's effectiveness at preventing home runs, walks, hit by pitches, and causing strikeouts. That kind of tells you the tale of a pitcher more so than the ERA. When your FIP is higher than your ERA, that's not great. Sir Anthony's FIP is a 4.68, and his walks and hits per innings pitched is at a 1.6. This team desperately needs Jose Alvarado back. That's for sure. And it's almost like one of those things, if you see Dylan Covey coming into a game, it's like, okay, they're waving the white flag.
It's the JT Real Muto gif. That's
but they just need to be more consistent out of the bullpen. They need more consistency from, the Taiwan Walkers, the Ranger Suarez, even Aaron Nola. Nola has not had a particularly standout contract type of season this year. It's almost every single game he's giving up some sort of clutch home run to the other team. He's got to be more dialed in. Like the pitch clock excuse is out the window. Like it's mid-August now, and you still haven't figured some things out. You need to be the pitcher that you can be because, ESPN put that article out, I think last week or the week before, for the top 10 baseball free agents and what their contracts could look like this offseason. Going into this offseason and into spring training, Nola's agent was like, oh, yeah, he's going to get a $200 million contract. The projected contract that Aaron Nola is now going to get this offseason, according to this article, is 5 years, $110 million.
Similar to the Kevin Gausman contract, who was the opponent tonight. It's a funny way that is that all turned out. Yeah, Nola is a little bit perplexing at times because he is dominant, but does have these these bumps that you don't want out of like a top level ace. But I hesitate to say like peaks and valleys with him because the valleys really aren't as bad. I think as everyone overrates their prospects and over kind of extrapolates or over analyzes the bad moments of their favorite players or the players on their team. I think Nola's like a victim of that sometimes. I would resign him at that contract personally. Like I think you keep Nola.
Oh yeah.
But I think it just goes to show too that like I think pitching in general is there's always weird valuation. I feel like every offseason there's a guy that gets, in my mind, really overpaid. I think Blake Snell was actually higher rated than him in that Blake Snell's going to get an insane contract.
He's going to get like $275 million.
And I don't think he's, and
he's not even close to worth
I don't
that.
think he's worth that at all. And I think, it's similar with Zach Wheeler. Like he's in the market at the same time as Patrick Corbin, and he gets less money. And Garrett Cole, and he's arguably, Garrett Cole's been very good too. But, I think Zach Wheeler's been the best out of those three.
Has Garrett Cole been to a World Series with the Yankees?
No.
I think so.
Garrett's been good, but I think Wheeler is really, really, especially if you're talking like pound for pound, like how much you've paid for them, by far, is the best out of the group. So I don't know. I don't know all the time what goes into baseball player valuation. It seems like a lot of math, and maybe there's something in the numbers that tells people that Nola is not as valuable. But I still think he's at worst, no matter who the Phillies sign, always going to be a great number 2 or an amazing number 3. Like unless we're signing someone really big, in the next 2-3 years, like he's always going to be that figure. And I'd be fine bringing him back. Yeah,
especially at that. Like if 5-1-10 is on the table, you sign that contract every single day of the week for Aaron Nola. The way that this rotation is shaken out too. Like I was at Friday and Sunday's game. Ranger Suarez has had his peaks and valleys this year too, coming off the injury, and I think Sunday was the best he's looked just from a consistency standpoint and the way his pitches were moving. He had a couple unfortunate, moments, giving up the home run early, and then just another like freak run that was the result of the game pretty much, outside of, the home plate umpire being a AAA umpire, and making 2 just unbelievable game-altering plays. But it is going to be interesting when it comes down to it, like how the Phillies decide to shake out this rotation when it gets closer to the playoffs, because obviously Wheeler's going to be your ace, and then it's a matter of, do you want to go Nola? Do you want to go Walker? Do you want to go Suarez? Lorenzen? Like, how do you want to? And I think it's a good problem to have for this team. We talked about that when they acquired Michael Lorenzen, is like, you now have such a good problem to have with the guys that were here, plus Christopher Sanchez still pitching extremely well. So I think the Phillies having options out of the rotation is one of the biggest benefactors of the Lorenzen trade as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, you get to the end of the season too, and the Phillies were able to do this last year as well, where maybe not as firmly in control, and a lot is left to be decided, so it's too early to say this definitively, but the Phillies could really be able to set their lineup how they want going into the playoffs, which is a big advantage. If you're able to go into a wild card series that you could potentially be hosting, because the Phillies would potentially be, as it is, hosting that wild card series, and you're able to set it so you have your preferred number 1 and number 2 going in, like that is a really, really nice thing to be able to do. And I think again, I think at worst they're a wild card team again. I can't see this team falling out of the playoff picture. It'd be very, very frustrating and alarming if they did. I would like them to keep their foot on the gas through the rest of the season and finish in that top spot, because you also don't know what's going to happen with number 1 and number 2 in the National League. Now, I think no matter what series between if you advance between the Braves and Dodgers, you're going to be the underdog, but they were the underdog against the Braves last year too, and it didn't matter. They were the underdog going into the Cardinals series. So yeah, I think a lot of times, like, playoff baseball, a lot of the regular season stuff just does go out the window. We've seen that time and time again. And it doesn't necessarily matter if you're a 100+ win team. You can get scrapped just as easily as anyone else.
And we all know the Miami Marlins are the dumbest team on the planet Earth. So they'll probably end up winning that wild card series against the Brewers, and then they'll go into a series against the Dodgers and pull that upset, and then it'll be Phillies Braves 2.0 in the NLDS, and then we'll have to go to our House of Horrors in Miami for an NLCS.
That would be hilarious. That would. It's gonna be it's gonna be a Marlins year, isn't it? Somehow.
Ridiculous.
I do when the Marlins make the playoffs, that's curtains usually. So.
Oh man, I don't even want to have to fathom. Although, I mean, game 1 is probably in the bag because it'd be Sandy Alcantara, and we always know how to figure him out.
Yeah, he will pitch a perfect game and get pulled in between the 8th and 9th inning, and we will win the game 2-1.
That's what we need. Before we keep the baseball talk pushing, our awesome merch partners, PHI Apparel Company, by the time you guys are listening to this on podcast or YouTube, or if you're watching live right now, you can use code NONO22 through August 17th to get 22% off all baseball merch at phiapparel.co. You can stand out in the crowd with their awesome baseball, football, the Philly Dogs shirt, or your Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network shirts. Working on some stuff to send over to them very, very soon. So some new merch should be up within the next week or so, hopefully. And you can stand out in the crowd, whether you're going to CBP, going to the Link for tailgating or for football season. I don't know if you want to go to the other arena right now, the state of affairs with that one team, but you can stand out for sure. And when you go to checkout at phiapparel.co, use our code UNDERGROUND at any time for 10% off any and all merch orders. It's the most effective and direct way to support everything we're doing here at Underground Sports Philadelphia. So go get your merch, phiapparel.co, code UNDERGROUND for 10% off your merch orders. Out of the clouds, it seemed, Matt, I wanted to just get your thoughts because it is taking the baseball world by storm, this Wander Franco story.
I was so lost because I saw a tweet about it, had not been caught up on. I'm not totally clear what. Like, there was a picture of him with a girl that is believed to be underage. It's never a situation that you should put yourself in.
No.
But I did see that he took, and this is always smart. He took to Instagram Live to defend himself. I'm sure everyone within the Tampa Bay Rays organization was very happy that he did that. They probably told him, like, hey, what would really help this? If you go on Instagram Live, just clear it all up,
baby.
Just clear it up for everyone. Certainly no one is gonna be upset by that, or it's certainly not gonna make it look even more suspicious or more guilty. Especially, have someone thrown a line too that people are out there looking for money. That is always a really good thing. So I don't know. It's bizarre. And if it's true, he's a terrible human. And,
yeah.
It's
an ongoing alleged.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you just kind of have to do a double take when you see the news because it feels so, excuse the pun, out of left field. Like,
yes.
It's unbelievable.
And it's one of those things that apparently, like, allegedly, said girl claims she was 18 when she's 14. The mother of the girl approved of it, and apparently the mother was trying to exploit Wander Franco for money and vehicles. And then when he did not comply, that's when this all took to the internet. But Major League Baseball is apparently all over it, and there are the powers that be in the Dominican Republic from attorneys, lawyers, and people that deal in this space are handling it. So on the surface, it is not looking great for Wander Franco. And I mean, one thing, outside of that whole situation that I have noticed because of playing fantasy baseball too, the Tampa Bay Rays start off the season so well this year. They fall out of first place. But have you noticed, Matt, that every Rays pitcher, one way or another,
season-ending
Tommy John surgery.
Shane McClanahan got it. Yeah,
Glass now has had it.
Yeah, I had Springer.
Yeah,
he He had season-ending injury too. Tough. I don't know what it is, but you know what? They will just they'll just plant some more seeds and find more somehow. That's what they do.
Insane. But ongoing investigation with Major League Baseball, which is just crazy. So we'll see what happens there. And let's take a look at the NL East and Major League Baseball run differentials. That was brought to you by our friends over at Wasted Wedge. A new age of golf has arrived, and if you're looking to be the talk and envy of your group and create memories with your friends and family, look no further than their lineup of Wasted Wedge products and merchandise. These Wasted Wedges are a blast to drink shots out of on and off the course, and you guys can check them out at wastedwedge.com or follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Wasted Wedge. And through the end of the month, you can use code SUMMER23 for National Golf Month and get free shipping on all of your orders from wastedwedge.com. That's code SUMMER23 at wastedwedge.com for free shipping on all orders from our pals over at Wasted Wedge. Matt,
So I was just trying to find. I'm sorry. I was just trying to find more about the Wander Franco, and this was the Rays made a statement during today's game we're made aware of the situation, whatever. This is just Sunday's promotion at Tropicana Field was the Wander Franco snapback hat for fans 14 and under. That is cosmically just terrible yet hilarious timing. I mean that's unbelievable.
I'll give you one more. Our good pal Pat Pitts sent this to me. This was on Twitter. This was an unfortunate insert card from Topps this year.
This is Youth Invasion. Man, that's tough. That is tough. That might be one of those cards though, and not to be too dark. That might end up being worth something. You know, there's the Menendez twins that are on the Knicks card, one of those things.
There's the Billy Ripken card where the bat knob says "fuck you."
Yeah,
man, baseball.
Unreal.
The Atlanta Braves just keep doing the thing. They have scored 700 runs this year. They now have a plus 206 run differential on the season at 77 and 42. The Phillies at 65 and 55, 12 and a half games back in the division, 2.5 up in the wild card with that number one wild card spot. Phillies have scored the second most runs in the division though, 551 for a plus 32 run differential. The Miami Marlins still hanging around, still being the dumbest team in baseball at 63 and 58. They have scored the least amount of runs in the division and have a negative 37 run differential and an expected win-loss of 57 and 64. And then we have the dumbest, most expensive team of all time, the New York Mets, at 55 and 66.
I actually think they're the smartest. I think what they're doing is actually really smart. They should do it for the next, 79 years.
That's about 4 go-rounds of cicadas.
Mm-hmm.
You're good to go. Mets have scored the second fewest runs in the division, but not by much at 526. They have a negative 49 run differential, and they're barely holding off the Nationals. It was great. Unfortunately, the Mets won on Sunday Night Baseball this past Sunday, but going into the recording, when I was pulling up the standings for Major League Baseball, the Mets were in last place.
It's hilarious.
It was great.
It's wonderful.
Also, do you find it weird that Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander have to keep coming out and making statements about what the Mets are doing?
I haven't paid any attention to them.
I saw this. Verlander tweeted just his thoughts on
when you're a part of a natural disaster or some kind of terrible event and you're a survivor, people naturally are going to gravitate towards you and want to get an interview to know what your thoughts were as the plane was crashing or the volcano was erupting or there was that big earthquake. And it's only normal, I think, to want to get those voices heard.
Extremely weird that this occurs, 2.5 weeks since the trade deadline. Justin Verlander in an effective notes app. I want to say that I have nothing but respect for the Mets organization, and I enjoyed connecting with all of my teammates this season, ... new and old. It truly was a wonderful group of people. That being said, we all know the success of a team is made up of more than just the players on the field. Everyone's input is valuable. I'm sorry to hear that a staff member took offense to constructive criticism on how we could improve. Wishing nothing but the best for the Mets moving forward.
Okay. I mean, why'd you say that?
What do you mean by that?
What story are you getting out in front of when you say that?
Like, you're not a part of the team anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just very weird behavior. The stolen franchise Washington Nationals, who are somehow just keeping it interesting at the bottom of the division. They're 53-67. They have scored 521 runs this season, but they are part of the 600-plus runs against club and have given up 611 for a negative 90 run differential. In the Nationals, oh, man, this is great. We are approaching, Matt, a new runs against leader.
New depths that have not yet been reached.
The Colorado Rockies.
This is James Cameron going down to the Mariana.
Have joined a new club. The Colorado Rockies have cleared the 600 level. They are at 700 runs against.
Deeply unserious team.
Negative 183 run differential for the worst in the National League. The only other club with negative 700 plus is the Oakland Athletics, who have given up 717 runs. The Rockies could tie the Athletics theoretically in one game. We've seen teams score 17 runs in a night. Could happen. But the A's are approaching the negative 300 zone in terms of run differential. They're at a negative 290 on the season, as opposed to the first place team in their division, the Texas Rangers, who are 72-48, who have a plus 197 run differential, the second best in all of baseball, only behind the Braves. And it looks like the Braves are the only team so far this year to have scored 700 runs.
I just wanted to look it up. The most runs allowed by a team in a season. This is since 1962. The Detroit Tigers in 1996 allowed 1,103 runs. The 1999 Colorado Rockies, 1,028. The Rockies actually make up quite a four of like this top. I don't know how many teams this is, but like four of like the top 12 or 13.
Wow.
Which I mean does in some ways make sense
Yeah.
because of like their home field disadvantage, I guess. Two of like the worst teams ever were the 2019 Rockies and the 2019 Orioles. And then the 2021 Orioles are also on this list. So
Wow.
Orioles, Rangers, and Rockies show up on this list quite a bit.
What a crew.
Yeah.
We have what, about a month?
The Rangers actually show up on this like top list the same amount of times. There's 4 Rangers seasons and there's 4 Rocky seasons and 2 Orioles seasons.
And we have about a month and a half left of the season. How many more runs? Could the A's hit the 1K club? Or the Rockies at that?
I think that's a big ask. You got like 6 weeks of baseball left.
Let's see. As the Phillies have taken the lead on a sacrifice fly by Jake Cave to bring in the boy Nick Castellanos. I just want to see what their schedules are, respectively.
How many games do they have left?
Let's see. So the A's are 33-87.
Christ.
So they have 42 games left, the A's do. And the Rockies are 46-75. So they have 41 games left.
Okay, so if they need to make up, they need to allow like average 7.3 runs a night to do that. I don't know. That feels like a big ask.
Let's just see who's on the schedule remaining for these teams. All right, so the A's, they wrap up against the Cardinals tonight. Then they have 3 games against Baltimore, 3 games against Kansas City, 4 games against the White Sox, and 3 games against Seattle to end the month of August. Not ideal.
Not the gauntlet that you want.
Then they have 3 games against the Angels, 3 against Toronto. Then they go on the road, 3 against the Rangers, 3 against the Astros. Then they have San Diego, Seattle, Detroit, Minnesota, and the Angels to end.
It would take quite a bit. The Rockies for the season are on average allowing 5.8 runs per game. So they'd have to have a pretty bad stretch, I think, to get there.
And the Rockies' remaining schedule is the Chicago White Sox, Tampa Bay Rays, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, Toronto, Arizona, San Francisco, Chicago, San Francisco, and the Chicago is the Cubs, San Diego, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Twins.
There's a lot of wild card teams in there. I'm actually cool. I'm actually cool now. I think the Rockies are good. I think they can turn it around. I actually think they should beat the Giants.
Some big boppers in there.
I would actually love it if they beat the Giants. That'd be nice.
That'd be real nice.
That'd be cool for me. So
the wild card standings, though. Phillies have a 2.5 game lead on the Giants. And it's the Giants, the Marlins in that last wild card spot. And then it is the Cubs, the Reds, the Diamondbacks kind of holding on for the teams that are 2 games or less. Then you have the Padres, who are 5.5 back, and then it kind of falls off a cliff there with the Mets, Cardinals, Pirates, Nationals, and Rockies. Do you think is it going to be the Marlins that get that last wild card spot?
I think the last wild card spot is pretty open still. Just looking at it as it stands right now, you've got Phillies, Giants, Marlins capturing that spot. There's like teams kind of just hanging on though. You got the Cubs, Reds, and Diamondbacks all in the mix. I don't think you can necessarily count out the Padres either.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not dead to me.
They're on life support. But.
Yeah, definitely. The problem with all those teams is they've not been consistent. I mean,
Right.
like most of those teams are going to end up a few games above 500 or at 500.
And you look at those 4 teams that are outside looking in, they didn't do nearly enough at the trade deadline to help their team get better. Like the Reds were on this like historic tear, and it's like, okay, the Reds could be buyers. Like, let's see what they do. It would be fun to have the Reds back in. Ellie De La Cruz is, the new face of the youth movement of baseball, and they did nothing at the deadline to help themselves. The Cubs kind of just held pat, didn't really make a move one way or another that kind of moved the needle. They held on to Cody Bellinger, which, without him, who knows where they are. The Diamondbacks didn't really do much either. They were kind of in that similar boat as the Reds, where it's like, all right, the Diamondbacks are, they're in the mix. Let's see what they do. And then post-trade deadline, they've fallen off a cliff. And then the Padres have kind of just been a disappointment all season because that's what's in. But, I mean, the Marlins made moves. They went and got bats that they needed. The Giants, they went and got some bats at the deadline as well. Their pitching has been great this year, especially in the bullpen. And then the Phillies went and got Michael Lorenzen to bolster their rotation. And then it's kind of just like, hey, we have the hitters. Go do your job.
Right.
It is going to be war flashbacks, though. When we are sitting down in October and hosting the San Francisco Giants from the ghosts of 2010s past, along with Gabe Kapler coming back in a wild card series.
Listen,
That's why home field advantage is so important for the Phillies, too.
do not want to go to San Francisco.
You don't want to have to get on a plane to go to San Francisco for 2 or 3 games. And you want the home field advantage of Citizens Bank Park booing the ever-living shit out of Gabe Kapler, trickling into the Giants team as a whole.
I heard he might pull the pitcher in the first inning, so I think you can get him to do that.
That'd be great.
You better be careful on those team hotels. Heard wouldn't want him to have a crisis of judgment.
Live casino would not be able to withstand that.
No, they would not.
But yeah, right now, Phillies, 3rd best team in the National League. Can't beat it. Dodgers and Braves are going to do what they do, and if you're staying above water and holding on to that first wild card spot, that's what you got to do. The Phillies got to be the number 1 wild card this year.
I agree.
Let's shift from baseball to the dumbest team not named the Miami Marlins, Matt. It's the Philadelphia 76ers. Brought to you by our pals at Kenwood Beer, because we're going to need tons of Kennys to get through the rest of this offseason and what's to come with this organization. You can go to kenwoodbeer.com, use the Kenny tracker, see who's got Kenny's on tap in the Philadelphia or Pittsburgh areas. You can also purchase it at your local Philadelphia area liquor stores. Light body, light calories, plenty of flavor, 4.1% ABV, just 120 calories, 8 grams of carbs. Got to be 21 or older to do so, and of course, please drink responsibly. Matt, apparently Daryl Morey is a liar, and James Harden knows his geopolitics.
Yeah. Got to be honest, I did not expect a Dennis Rodman-esque ambassadorship role for James Harden, but I got to tell you, I'm getting real close to just giving these boys the Flyers treatment. You're just dead to me. I have nothing to do with you. I don't know who you are anymore. But yeah, it's listen, this entire situation is incredibly clear to me. James Harden last summer took a friendly deal for the Sixers. The idea that he was going to
emphasis on friend,
right? Which did allow the Sixers to make some additional roster moves in the hopes that that would mean that the roster was better and more complete and a little more deep. And I think that was definitely with the idea that James would be rewarded with a max contract this summer. However, James Harden proceeded to do several things. One, he sucked. He was not great in the regular season. He had obviously great assist numbers, but on Christmas, we get reports about him going back to Houston. And this is a thing all the way through, even into May. And he stinks it up in the playoffs again. Has terrible, terrible elimination game performances. He had 3 good games in the playoffs. And then finds out that Houston, who he had been flirting with openly, obviously not himself, right? But I mean, we heard it from all of the most plugged in people. Woj just tweeting about it all the time about how it certainly seemed like all signs are, but it was the same wording that Woj tweets about draft picks, that he has to keep it vague because he's not allowed to just say certainly, here's who's getting picked.
The Rockets are lasering in on acquiring James Harden.
And then I think Udoka did not want James Harden, because the entire time James Harden to the Rockets did not make much sense to me with their timeline, and it was a bizarre choice, but it seemed very certainly like it was going to happen. It did not happen, I think, because the Rockets were like, no, we're actually not going to pay you. Now he has no leverage anymore. And yeah, does it suck maybe? Maybe Daryl Morey did lie to him. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But that's also the game, man. I don't know. You also opted back into your contract. You just walked.
That's the number one thing from this.
Listen, again, maybe Daryl Morey did lie. I again, totally believable that's true. However, you did not have to opt back into this team. If you really wanted to go and get a long-term contract, maybe you're not going to get a max deal, but if you wanted to go, at least go to where you wanted to, which is, I guess, LA, and go play there on the vet minimum, I guess, because that's actually, when you get to the playoffs, that's how you play, is like a veteran minimum player. But you opted back in. You had no leverage, and then you opted in contractually to have zero leverage. You're on a contract now. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. It's so frustrating as a fan because, and this is, I think, one of the biggest problems of the NBA of the last 6 or 7 years is that players will be on these contracts, and Harden did thus. It's like if they'll cheat with you, they will cheat on you. You know, it's the same thing. They will demand and kick up their feet. You're seeing it with Damian Lillard this summer.
Ben Simmons did it.
Ben Simmons did it. He's trying to force his way out. Well, guess what? There's no one. There's no one that's interested in acquiring you. No one is giving a reasonable deal. You're gonna just have to play. I don't know what to It's a really toxic situation, and I got to tell you, it's exhausting already, and it makes me just hope for Eagles season, even though I'm not even a big Eagles fan, just because that's the ultimate distraction.
Red October
is Jalen Hurts being back, and yeah, they get hopefully a nice Phillies postseason type of thing, and. And
Union go on a run.
Wow, talk about toxic and choking. But I just think for me, it's a really frustrating situation, and I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of every offseason having these storylines. This is definitely, I think, the most toxic of all the things so far that we've had to deal with. But yeah, and this is not the first team that Harden has done this to. I don't even necessarily feel this is 100% the Sixers have done wrong here. Do I think the Sixers probably messed up here? I think they deserve some blame. I think it's no coincidence that the Sixers have had such like tenuous relationships with players, and they've had all these issues, and they've been mismanaged over the last few years. I think that is a front office and ownership issue. I think Daryl Morey has to be very careful, because if he plays this wrong, he's out of a job. And I think Daryl Morey's stock has really fallen in his time with the Sixers. He's made some good moves. I think I think it's just in general, he had this kind of very, very high reputation and positive reputation coming out of Houston. I don't think anyone blamed him for the situation ending the way that it did. But I do think that this could be a real setback for him. And so I don't know how he's going to play it. James Harden says this can go even lower, that he can make this even more it's that it's that Jane Lynch meme from Glee. Like, I will create an environment that is so toxic. Like,
I saw somebody made a meme that said, "James, how uncomfortable are you willing to get?" And it was just Kyrie Irving.
I mean, honestly, that's just at least Kyrie has showed up in the playoffs so far.
Kyrie's also responding to Woj tweets about this, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, we have fucking Kyrie now chiming in, using Woj's government names, calling him Adrian.
I have the worst fucking attorneys. Like, that is that is what this is turning into.
Here's a fun little rundown. This is every offseason since 2013 for the Sixers, with a nice little headline. 2013, traded 21-year-old all-star point guard to tank. 2014, drafted 2 players who wouldn't play. 2015, drafted their 3rd straight center. 2016, hired their advisor's son to run the team. 2017, number 1 pick loses the ability to shoot a basketball. 2018, GM trash star player on Twitter under burner accounts, hired a new GM with no experience. 2019, traded Jimmy Butler. 2020, coach fired, hired new coach, then hired new GM. 2021, star point guard demands trade. 2022, investigated for tampering. 2023, star point guard demands trade. That's brought to you by the amazing Derek Bodner.
Yeah, well, so is next summer. I can't wait to see how this team disappoints me this year. That's the nice thing. Yeah, Embiid took processing in Philadelphia out of his bio. That's always good stuff when you get that kind of thing.
He's ready for football season,
and that becomes just the narrative for the next few days is what's happening there. But it's awesome, man. I gotta tell you, it is just so much fun being a Sixers fan. It is just so worth it.
I think the one positive is that Joel finally got rid of the NFT profile picture.
I forgot how unlikable this team has been over the last few seasons. It's just annoying. This has been a nice distraction for that, but man.
He did add a new location to his Twitter profile, which is the capital of Cameroon.
Good. Awesome. I guess that's in response to Team USA trying to get him to play for them.
And then just remember, we're not acrobats. Shout out PJ Tucker, also standing in solidarity with James Harden, because where James goes, PJ goes.
Well, I mean, if one of my best friends got me paid like that at like 37, I would also, you know what? I would also do the exact same thing. You know what? I would do a lot worse than post a supportive Instagram story of my friend for that kind of money.
And who would have thought? Who would have thought, of all people, the newest Sixer would be the one to understand us the most in this situation? Because did you see Pat Bev's tweet?
I did not.
So Patrick Beverley on Twitter went and quote tweeted. So obviously Pat Bev has a podcast on Barstool's podcast network, and quote tweeted Dave Portnoy, who said, "R.I.P. at Sixers season. You had a good run." Bunch of laughing emojis. And Patrick Beverley quote tweeted and said, "Nah, chill. Philly thrives in adversity."
We actually don't.
We don't.
We actually really
Other
don't.
teams in the city do, but
I would actually say almost no Philly sports team thrives in adversity. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. Well, we're not a sports city that seems to.
The last adversity we thrived in was Super Bowl 52.
I mean, we were technically underdogs, but I outside of that, there wasn't adversity. I guess that was the only team that did rise above it anyway. I mean, you lose your starting quarterback, but I don't know. This has not historically been a city of dogs, if I'm being totally honest. In fact, we found a way to lose 3 sports championships in like a 6-month window. I don't know. The Union had their most important, most viewed, biggest game of their entire club's history and got absolutely demolished within like 35 minutes last night. I don't know, man. I'm just starting to think that maybe we're soft. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, this fucking team. Maybe they should just go play this season in the Color Star metaverse. Maybe that's what James Harden's doing in China.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he said he sold 10,000 bottles of wine
in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes. Cool. That's awesome.
He's just gearing up for his QVC career.
But I'm supposed to feel bad for you that you opted into a contract for $35 million. You're going to be paid more money than God. You live a life of luxury that even like the wealthiest king in medieval times could not even comprehend and fathom. But you're a victim here. I get it.
Riding mopeds through the streets of
This
China.
is just, honestly, like, in all seriousness, this is what has soured me over the NBA over the last few years. It's like, listen, like, I'm happy to support players across sports because they are the product and they deserve to get paid what is fair and what is right. You sign a contract though, and like that's it. I'm sorry, like it's obnoxious. It's obscene. Like
it's the whole point of a player option.
It's every 4 months with the NBA. There's some new star whining about not being like not playing with their best friend or wanting to go to a different city. Like, God, then don't sign the contract.
Right.
Like don't.
Where do you think this all started with the NBA? I saw somebody brought up a good point that it started with Shaq.
I think Shaq was just bouncing around and was just doing 1 year rentals. I don't even think it was.
Well, they said when Shaq
like gets out of the
LA,
Magic.
Gets out of the Magic, gets out of LA, goes to Miami.
I guess. I think in some ways, yes. I think in the last like 10 years, you've seen it much more pronounced where guys are really willing to like push leverage. I don't know why teams are so willing to fold though. That's what I don't understand. Listen, do I get it when there's like a guy with a year left on his deal saying this is where I'm going? Sure. Like
I get something for a guy that may not be back.
Right. And it's like in some ways that might actually help the team in some ways because you trade in the trade deadline, you're probably not getting what you want, or he just walks. And it's not like other leagues where you get like compensatory picks. But there's guys that have like 3 years, 4 years demanding these trades to other players. And it's like I don't know how to tell you, Damian Lillard, that you don't have a market. That if you're dead set on just Miami, that no. Like, that's the other thing, too, is it's one thing to, like, demand a trade. It's another thing, like, specifically, I am going here. James Harden wants to go to the LA Clippers. Well, guess what? The Clippers have nothing to trade.
They won't trade Terrence Mann for you.
Again, maybe you shouldn't have opted into your player option. And you want the best of both worlds, where you want your $35 million, but you also want to choose exactly where you want to go and force it through. Like, I'm sorry, you just does not work.
Welcome to the real world, pal.
Honestly, it's exhausting. Like, to me, it's just, how is anyone supposed to be a fan of a team when they know at any moment this can happen and it's completely out of their control? And it's such a toxic situation. Like,
that's why you have this stan culture on social media,
right? Why would I possibly want to invest time in this team when I know that this is a likely outcome? Is this situation? Like, just, I don't know. It's something I think the NBA really has to address because I think it's a problem for everyone. This isn't even just like a Sixers thing. It's a problem all across the league where guys forcing their way out and
Kawhi did it,
creating these terrible situations. I don't know.
It does make the NBA almost like unwatchable
because it's like there's the drama attached to it, which has become just as popular as the game itself. Like if you look like
there's no attachment,
right? And it's just, I don't know. It's exhausting.
And it's so different from like what we've seen in the NFL over the past few years where like guy gets traded or guy leaves in free agency, goes to a team. It's like a completely different feel. And I don't know if it's just because the rosters in the NBA are smaller. So it's like, oh, it gets that much more emphasized that you have this guy, and this guy on your team, as opposed to in the NFL where it's like, they're only playing half the time because it's offense and defense. So it is a very weird thing that I think the next CBA negotiation in the NBA is going to be fascinating.
Yeah. We'll see.
Eagles, they are in preseason mode, and it's brought to you by our friends over at Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. They now have an app for you to download in the App Store or Google Play. And just by downloading the app and opening it up, you can claim a free pair of sunglasses. Simple as that. They also have their warehouse sale going on right now that you can get up to 80% off. That's correct. You heard me right. 80% off with code WARE80 at tomahawkshades.com or in the app. They've got the sunglasses, the Blue Light Plus glasses, prescription lenses, and at any time throughout the year, you can use our promo code USP for 25% off at tomahawkshades.com. Check out the warehouse sale. Download the app, tomahawkshades.com. Eagles have joint practice with the Browns this week, and apparently Deshaun Watson got his feelings hurt, Matt.
Wow, that really sucks.
Something just rubbed him the wrong way.
Yeah, I can't say on here what I hope happens to him, but I just imagine the scene from Predator 2 where the Predator's on top of a skyscraper holding a human skull attached to a severed human spine and pumping its chest as lightning strikes across the cityscape. Just imagine something. I don't know. Just something like that. Man, that was like that was just a random thought that came to my head. Something like that. But, yeah.
Good film.
Good film. Great film. Danny Glover. Iconic performance. Love to see it.
Lots of people also putting the Howie tinfoil hats on, as they tend to do this time of year, because the Eagles cleared up a bunch of cap space going into training camp and everything. And nice little picture of Lane Johnson talking to Myles Garrett. Nice little picture of Jalen Hurts talking to Myles Garrett with a Rita's water ice cup in hand, as Eagles training camp tends to have. I'll tell you what, man. Just like we said, we would love to have Nicky C on the Phillies. I'd love to have Myles Garrett on the Eagles.
Oh, yeah, of course. That'd be amazing. Would I like to have one of the best defensive players in football? Absolutely.
I forget who tweeted. It might have been Jimmy Kemsky. I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Well, we have the next Myles Garrett because we drafted Jalen Carter. So
that's very
true.
A good thing. Jimmy Kemsky, I think, tweeted this. Non-Eagles tweet, he said, I would take Myles Garrett any day of the week over Nick Bosa. I feel like I agree.
I think they're in a similar tier. I don't know that one is clear of the other, but I think they're in a similar tier. Myles Garrett is very good, so is Nick Bosa. I don't know. For me, that's a tough one.
I think I lean Myles Garrett hasn't had a significant injury in his career, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, obviously got suspended for almost decapitating Mason Rudolph, but
well, you know what? I think sometimes you got to hear him out. I think that's.
But it feels like Nick Bosa always gets hurt.
There's
some
definitely
significant.
Well, Nick Bosa.
Am I wrong? Am I thinking Joey Bosa?
Yeah, Joey Bosa. Nick
Joey's
Bosa. The only injury problem season he had was 2020. He only played 2 games, so he's played 16, 17, and 16 games. Outside of that, let's see. He's got he had 18.5 sacks last year. Christ, 15.5 the year before, 0 in the season in the COVID year when he only played 2 games, and then 9 in his rookie year. Insane impact for rookie season. I'm going to compare him to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett has been in the league longer. I mean, Myles Garrett is very consistent too. 16 sacks the last 2 years, 12, 10, 13.5, and 7 his rookie year. I think they're, and then there's obviously more that goes into it.
Are they the same age?
I believe Garrett is, Jesus.
Myles Garrett's 27.
I think Bosa is younger by a year. He's 25.
Okay. Yeah, Myles won't turn 28 until December.
So, I don't know. I think they're both very good. I think it's hard. For me, it's hard to
Would be
to
interesting if you could get Myles Garrett, because the Browns, I think, are not going to be very good this year.
What about both of them? Let's get both of them.
Also, Myles Garrett, you know how Pro Football Reference, Pro Baseball Reference, and everything show the nicknames of players? Great nickname for Myles Garrett. I don't think you can give him the first one, which is Superman. I feel like that is kind of dubbed to Cam Newton. But Bigfoot as a defensive end is a great nickname.
That is nice.
Also a great nickname is everybody's preseason darling, who might just make a huge impact on this team. And turns out, you didn't need to bring C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. Reed Blankenship has been balling out all preseason, all training camp, and Sean Bradley, hopefully he gets healthy. Unfortunately, Achilles injury is going to knock him out for the year. Quote tweeted today calling Reed Blankenship Ghost. And I think Ghost for Reed Blankenship is an elite nickname. But the fact that he's playing as well as he is right now and just taking advantage as an undrafted free agent last year, stepping into a role this year, knowing that he was probably going to be a starter because C.J. Gardner-Johnson left in free agency. I'm excited to see how he kind of just steps into this role and plays on this defense. New look defense, too, with the new defensive coordinator in Sean Desai. I'm optimistic about Reed Blankenship being a very good player in this defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is what sustains a good team too, is finding late round guys or undrafted guys that can fill in and be starters for you. They don't have to be superstars, but if you can find starters, that is really good value.
3 interceptions in practice today. Sucks to suck, Deshaun.
Yeah.
Also, Jalen Hurts signs with Jordan Brand.
Says he's been
Can he get any cooler?
He says he's been talking to Michael Jordan a lot, which is a little worried about those conversations, I think. But I think overall probably a positive thing.
I don't know if what would be the next step in cool factor for Jalen Hurts? He's already
he started smoking cigarettes or something. Just he's just on the sideline just ripping darts. That would probably be pretty cool. I don't know.
He's arguably coolest player in the NFL right now. And that's all bias aside of him being our quarterback. He's just a cool person.
You got to, I think if you get one of those, McDonald's is doing this a lot too. You get a meal named after you. You do something like that.
That's the next step.
Yeah. You do something like that.
I feel like with the Eagles, with their partnerships, he's either got to get a Rita's flavor or a Wawa hoagie.
Yeah. Well, Schwarber had the Schwarber drink.
Yeah.
So maybe we get something for Hurts going. I don't know.
That's the next step. I'm pretty sure. Last bit here, like you mentioned, the Union. First time in a long time it feels like they got embarrassed. Unfortunately, at home in the League's Cup, they lose 4-1 to Messi and Inter Miami. Just kind of feels like the moment got to them, which is rare for them.
I would not say it's rare for them. This is this has been a team that has failed on the biggest stages a lot.
Yeah.
But
in this fashion.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely the worst of it, for sure.
This is the first time it feels like the Union have gotten, embarrassed.
Yeah. Bad lineup
in a long time.
Bad lineup to start. Not sure what the thought process was there, and topped off with terrible individual performances and focus. Really not much more to say other than that. It was a terrible game. I am sorry that some people paid $600 to see that. At least you get to see Messi score. I don't know. Second half of performance was a lot better, and I think that's what's frustrating is, after some changes and tactical tweaks that the team played that much better. I think you could have had that from the start and been competitive. And listen, this was a good opportunity for this team to have a shot at a trophy, which they've not had much of over the last few years. And I do worry that this team could be in its most successful era and only have one supporter shield to show for it. That would suck, but they do seem to have a mentality problem when it comes to big stages. It felt like maybe they were getting over that in MLS Cup, and then that's one of the worst choke jobs I've ever seen in my life. I feel like we have not talked about it enough that they threw a championship away in a very dramatic way and really, really just torched themselves in the penalty. So I don't know. It's a big mental blow to face at this stage of the season, and especially because it felt like they were progressing and we got to a semifinal and there's a big stage, and yeah, it's a huge letdown, and it's hard to reconcile that.
They with a win, I believe it is, on Saturday in the the consolation game, they can secure a spot in the 2024 CONCACAF Champions Cup. In your opinion, obviously MLS play gets back underway on the 20th for this team. Does this get used as kind of a wake-up call?
Who knows? I think honestly, like it's a bad performance. I think they can move on, but again, I do think that this is emblematic of a lot of the problems that the Union's had over the last few seasons, and I think this is one of the issues with the way they play in general. Is they are a defensive team, not just in the way that they set up, but I also just think their mentality is defensive, and that I think the Union sometimes play to not lose, and I think that's what gets you in trouble in later stages of tournaments. They've never been like if you look at their playoff history, they're like, look at their run up in the League's Cup, 2 straight rounds on penalties. Like, yeah, I mean, you did it, you got through, and there's something to just surviving and advancing, but they've never really impressed. They've never put on like comprehensive wins in like the latter stages of playoffs or tournaments, and they've had a habit of just falling short, and especially with this group as it is, like, and that is frustrating, and I think it's a little bit of a red flag for me. So maybe it's a wake-up call. I don't know, but I think there's something within kind of the mental makeup of this team that might just be, I don't want to say soft, but I just think has a tendency to fail at these moments, and that's very frustrating as a fan.
Yeah, so we'll see if they can get a dub this weekend to secure that spot for 2024, and then MLS schedule back underway on the 20th for this team against Dallas. So we'll see if the Union can bounce back from an unfortunate performance there. And I saw somebody say, all of Philadelphia finally decides to tune into the Union, and they put up that type of game. That is the most Philadelphian thing ever.
Absolutely.
That's all we got for you guys. Make sure you're following us on the socials at Underground PHI, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, all that good stuff at Underground PHI, and Facebook.com/Underground Sports PHI. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Goes a long way for helping this show continue to grow, helps more people get eyes and ears on Underground Sports Philadelphia as a network. So continue subscribing, continue downloading, and subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show twice a week, full video episodes of all of our podcasts on our network, original video content, live streams, clips, shorts, all on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. And go get your merch, phiapparel.co, code Underground for 10% off any and all merch orders. And like we have mentioned, this show is presented by the City of Vineland, and whether you're a company looking to expand, relocate, or you're a new business startup, selecting the right location is critical to your success. Vineland, New Jersey offers both an affordable business location and an excellent quality of life. The city's economic development department is a one-stop source for moving your project through the development and approval process, and their goal is to make this process as smooth as possible and to provide the fastest turnaround times in the region. If you are considering potential locations for your operation, contact the Vineland Economic Development Team at 856-794-4100. That's 856-794-4100. Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always growing season. And big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. This has been episode number 560 of Underground Sports Philadelphia, presented by the City of Vineland. For Matt, I'm KB. Till next time, we're getting the heck up out of here, and we are signing off. Peace.